Okay, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And with a big thanks to IEEE and IHRD and Professor Rajesh in particular for inviting me to this event. I'm also very thankful to the co-panelists, everyone, for the discussion. So our topic of ethical and legal frameworks. Before getting to that, the context was set with the previous question itself. So I'm very grateful for Nikita's and this thing. It is like context setting for my speech itself. It is not about stopping Gen AI. It is about knowing how it is being used. That is the most important thing. So there comes the need of ethical and legal frameworks. So the highlight here is that the need of Gen AI or to promote Gen AI for innovation is not even a debate. It's a given. So nobody in the panel even asked, oh, can we give whatever MATLAB is showing to the students? Nobody will ask that. Yes, it has to be. Because Gen AI or AI is needed in education. The question here is the cons of that. How do we know that it is only used constructively? So you give some weapon to a person, it is not always used for defense. It might be used for attack as well. So what are the things which we need to know when we construct such a framework? So second thing is, how do we look at the need for that so that the responsible AI use is done properly in the education framework itself? How do we balance? The main important thing is, how do we balance innovation with integrity? And this is a question which came before AI. This is not a question which has existed with AI, a question which has come before it. So like this, innovation has to be always to be balanced with integrity and compliance. So that is why you can see that even any industry, any company, they'll first say what are the values of those company. The reason why they say what the values are is because that is paramount to them. The rest comes second. Same way, we have to look at how do we set this up. So in our discussion, we actually discussed three things in the table. I'm very thankful to the participants, both students and academic people who joined that. The first thing is, what are the ethical considerations? We talk about ethical framework. When we talk about ethical framework, we have to look at what are the ethical considerations. There are three broad ethical considerations which we discussed. Number one, addressing the risk of bias. Okay, the risk of bias can come. The risk of fairness in AI can come. That is an ethical thing. Anything related to fairness and bias thing is the first part of ethics. The second part is, since we are talking about education and this thing, how do we address plagiarism, IP protection? Are we looking into how do we look at whether we have crossed the borders of getting an inspiration to clearly copying the things? That's the second part of ethical part. The third part is, how do we address the privacy concerns? That is also ethical. So these are the three ethical areas we considered. Then we looked at what are the legal frameworks, the legal policy frameworks. We discussed many things. The 2-3 things we discussed was, number one, there are existing regulations, and I talked in this thing that there is the Europe AI Act which came in, and there are people talking the pros, cons. Oh yeah, there are many things, but the most important thing in the legal thing is a line has to be drawn. There will be a lot of debates about the line, that the line should have been little up, little down. That is not a matter. The line is the need of the hour. Europe has come with the line. Every other legal framework will draw the line soon. Second thing is, when the line comes, how do we address the gaps in the policies? Because the policies will have a lot of gaps, and the gap has to be addressed for because the AI will capitalize that faster than other areas. Third thing is, what is the global, I talked about the Europe AI law. What is the global perspective? Because if you don't have a global perspective, people will move from one area to another area and use the same thing. So again, education will not be of not much use there. That they will say that, okay, you go to this country and it will be protected. So there should be a global perspective on the legal framework as well. So these are three areas. Then when we come to higher education, institution, organization, those areas, there are three things. One is any institute or even institutes like IHRD, like IEEE should have what are the guidelines for AI ethics. I think IISc seems to have that, and I think we saw that in the presentation. It's really good that IISc has made that. But the guidelines has to come from every institution. Every corporate is now making that. So every education institution will come with the guidelines, everything. Second is, more than controlling, it's about making sure that people use this with awareness. How do you promote awareness of this? How do we promote awareness of both the usage and the guidelines? As in one area, what Nikita was telling, these are the usage parts. That is needed. That awareness has to be created. In the same time, create the awareness of what should not be done with these tools has to also be created in parallel. Third, how can we have real collaboration between the triangle which Nikita told, the research, students and industry, the collaboration to have joint policies of how this can be done in the AI. So these were key points which we discussed to make sure that how the framework is done. Now, some other points which came is inclusivity. Means it should not be like the education, especially in the higher education, some students should not be deprived of this. So for example, the government medium and the private should have equitable access to the tools. So like we saw MATLAB as an example. Those tools has to be available to all the higher education part. If not, you will create a non-equitable society. When the people who use this go to the industry, they will have an edge. And as the normal saying goes, AI doesn't replace, but people who use AI replaces the people. So that should be taken care even in the policy itself, that usage has to be done in all places. Then so you have to address the disparities, address the funding for that as part of that. Second thing is the human AI collaboration. We discussed that a lot in the table, where to involve humans. So I think first of all, when 2 or 3 people are using that, for a human, there will be empathetic touch of everything coming in. So where are the things where human touches are needed in the framework itself, that these areas we should not be using AI. So these areas you can actually use full-fledged and get into the control part there. So that's the next part of the thing. The next part is, last is collaboration. The triangle I like, because I always say that we means the people sitting here. We are people of yesterday, telling the students of today how they should do in tomorrow. And when we do that, we have to be very careful of the change which we also have to embrace. So that means that we should be having a continuous collaboration of industry and education from a very low mechanism throughout, so that this is promoted and the policies, the frameworks are constructed in the very nascent stages itself, and doesn't wait for too long. Now, I'll not take much time. I'll just go to the conclusion. The most important thing I want to reiterate is that the importance of ethical and legal adherence. So as we promote AI and Gen AI, which is very much needed, and because we are just promoting innovation, we have to promote innovation with AI and Gen AI. As we do that, the importance of ethical and legal adherence should be a must. So that line has to be drawn, and the adherence will come as a must. Second thing is, there should be actionable strategies coming up from legal institutions, corporate organizations, education institutions, not just frameworks, but also actionable things, that what happens when these frameworks are violated. These frameworks are much more legal things, etc. to do that. Last thing is more like a call to action to every one of us, saying that how can we do more collaborative efforts on promoting frameworks? How can we encourage all of us to be part of building that framework itself? So those are my points. there are much more dilemmas when we discuss this. So when we have the frameworks, the ethical dilemmas or the academic integrity questions which come into part, the governance colliding against the integrity. So the debate can continue, but we have to start the framework at one point. So thank you again. Thanks for the opportunity.